Hi, welcome back to InSecurITy.TV. I'm your host, Charles Henson. Today with me, we have Scott Beck in Canada and David Ruddock in Australia. Today's topic is going to be on who's watching your every movement online. We're going to talk about how websites are tracking you. You may notice that you're visiting a website and then you go to your email a couple days later and you'll see an email about something that you were looking for online. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and how you can cover your privacy while you are on these different websites and how they're finding this. We'll also touch on retargeting ads and the difference in spyware versus retargeting ads. So Scott, David, one of the things that I've noticed is when I was searching online for family vacation, I go to Carnival Cruise Line, I'm looking at the website, I'm looking at the different times, the different travel dates, and what happens is I'll click on, maybe I want to, cruise down in the Bahamas, go to Jamaica, wherever. About a week later, I'll get in my inbox an email from Carnival Cruise Line. And one of the things in there, it says, hey, are you still looking to travel to the Caribbean? And so it's kind of weird how websites are tracking that information. I've also noticed that if I go on eBay, I can search for different products. Maybe I'm looking to buy something, and I'm just checking out different auctions that are on there. And then later in my email, or maybe while I'm on Facebook, you'll see an ad that pops up and says, hey, are you still interested in this item? And that's retargeting. So let's talk a little bit about the difference in someone that's retargeting ads versus someone that's actually tracking the sites. Scott, what are your thoughts? I'm sure you're running Google AdWords for your business, and as I am, and looking at different people that come to your site. Are you using tracking software, or do you? What are your thoughts on those type of things where people are coming to the site and you're able to know who's there and what they're doing?
Well, it's a developing technology that's continuing to grow, Charles. I mean, you touched on the fact that at one time people would call this spyware, and to an extent it still kind of is, except it's turned into a business model. Businesses have figured out how to be able to track the people that they visit to so they can continue to try to sell to them. For us personally, yes, we're using Google AdWords, and yes, we can see what words they're using to get to our website. And through some different service providers, we can actually now buy a service that's called retargeting. And this has become its own whole industry, which is why, or how they're able to do this, is they're putting this stuff on your computer when you visit the site, so it remembers it. And when you go to another site, you pick anyone, for example, where you see some ads that are showing up on the website. They're looking to see what you've searched for, and boom, this is where these ads are coming from. So there is stuff that's getting put on the computer. So to me, it's still a little bit like spyware, because they are putting things that you're not aware of on your computer. I guess the big difference to me, Charles, is that with traditional spyware, they were doing it behind the scenes, and they were doing it to do bad things to you, where this retargeting, they're trying to sell things to you. So it's not that same level of maliciousness today. But we're seeing it more and more and more across the websites, and just by what you're surfing can give a pretty clear picture of what you're doing in your life.
Mm-hmm. True. I know one of the things that we do, I mean, we have Google Ads that we pay for, and we want to know, how many impressions we're getting, how many people are clicking those ads, what keywords are bringing them to the site. But we've got a software that even goes one step further, and it's a service that you can purchase, and that service allows us to see where people are clicking on our site, where their mouse is moving, where it's hovering over, and how long they're staying on the site. So really, the purpose of us using it is not to track who we're going to retarget to or go out and market to. It's more of how well is our website working, and how is it bringing in leads or not bringing in leads. What do we need to focus on? What can we change on our site to make it more user-friendly, as well as it gives us a heat map of where is the hottest area on our site that people are looking. But I know that, say Carnival, they want to look at where your destination may be. Expedia is another one. If you go on Expedia and say you look for flights from Nashville to New York, within the next day or 2 days, they're retargeting ads on other social media platforms and other sites that are saying, hey, are you still interested in going to New York? They'll also advertise New York hotels at discounted rates. David, have you seen some of this in some of your own browsing?
Yeah, and I mean, look, we talk about big data and all the rest of it, and as I was talking about offline, it's a bit of a revelation when you actually start looking into what's going on behind the scenes. And there's a really good plugin for browsers called Ghostry, G-H-O-S-T-R-Y. There's a handful of others as well, but this is one of the good ones, where when you turn it on, it actually shows you all the cookies and JavaScript and everything else that's going on in the background that is tracking your movements. And so it doesn't matter if it's remarketing or just analyzing its customers' movements. But as we move through websites, the companies, there are companies who are recording where we go, what we do, what we click on. Those companies include Google and Facebook. So every time you click on a website that has a like button on it, even if you don't click on that, Facebook is tracking the fact that you went to that site and read that page. And we sort of think, you know, you guys have, or we've all touched on this a lot about the whole big data thing, and you're the product, someone else is the customer. And this is where it's all coming from. Every time we visit the website, we're being tracked. It's being tied back to either our device ID, what they call the MAC address, which is the unique identifier for your network card, your IP address, browser IDs, all these sort of things that they're correlating back so that they can, when you go have a look at a website for Carnival and you're looking for certain things, then work out that, oh, okay, well, you know, he's a man in this age group and he's obviously got a family and he's looking at holidays. So let's, all of our advertisers who are buying our data, who are in the travel landscape, let's put their ads forward. There was an interesting thing in one of the books that we've all gone through where they talked about they've been doing this data collection for a very long time, but they haven't had the power to actually process it. Well, now they have the power to actually statistically break down our patterns and work out who we are. So it's crazy.
It's interesting, you know, you mentioned going to a website and you know, there's two ways that you can view a website. If you go to, let's say, Expedia or Carnival Cruise Line and you're browsing for vacations, how do they know it's you? There's one of two ways they do it. Number one, if they send you an email, you click on that link, that email link has a unique identifier tied to it. So they know who clicked that link. They know who that person is that actually opened the message, clicked the link, and followed it. So therefore, they know who you are. The other way is if you simply sign into the site while you're booking travel or looking at travel so that you can save your itineraries. Maybe you want to save the search for later reference. Then that's two different ways that they can track you there. So yeah, it's very interesting how much information they are obtaining and retaining. And it's just like you touched on with the cookies. If you've ever searched online, so you went to Google and you did a search for cabinet doors and you click the first 3 links, you come back a week later and you're looking for more cabinet doors, you click on it, you'll notice that the first 3 links that you've been on before are a different color than the ones you haven't been on. And that's all held within the information within the cookies from that various sites. The same thing with the different sites that you go to. You may go to a site and you may click on a link and look at a couple different products. Then later, when you visit it later that week, you'll notice that those products you've already seen are a different color code than the ones you haven't.
And Charles, you take that one step further, is that when you're running these searches and going to these sites, it's never forgotten. it's always maintained by someone. So some people might think that when they go on the website, they're being anonymous, and they're really not, so they can track. So if you happen to go in and type in something very personal that you're looking for, or pleasurable, or whatever the case may be, that maybe you might not want to discuss out in the public, that's being retained. That's going to show up. So we saw a case that came into the shop. The computer had a virus, and that's a different issue. But when we started looking at and cleaning things up, there have been visits to pornography sites. And, we had to kind of point out delicately to this lady that, the computer got a virus because it had been going to the sites. It was, no, it's not possible. And she was actually quite upset at the fact that how dare we suggest that somebody in her household was going there, until a couple of days later when she said, hey, I'm getting all these pornography ads along my web browser, and it must be true. The point I'm making is you got to be careful what you're searching for just out there, because it can linger for a long time, and you can make a lot of different jokes and relate that back to real world situations. But it's something that you got to kind of keep in mind when you're doing your searching. And there are some steps you can take to try to minimize or to make yourself more anonymous, to go back to the original way of the web, shall we say, before it got so monetized. And we're going to touch on some of those different things that we can do with our different browsers and different software to try to do those things.
Yeah, I'd probably add as well, there was an interesting article on a TV show over here pointing out that it's not just in the web, but retail shopping centers are now tracking the way people move around stores. I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen it as well, that, all your major chains and all the rest of it, the model of the floor layout is usually all the same. And it's done that way from a psychological point, so that we walk around the store in a certain way. The men's clothes is always way up the back, so we have to go through everything else, possibly accidentally buy something on the way. Things at the very front of the store are often their highest markup item, all that sort of stuff. Well, they've taken what we're sort of doing on the web and what we're talking about now with the ability to track and analyze what we're doing, but they're now also doing it in retail stores as well, so they can work out, did someone walk past a particular display and stand in front of it? How long did they stand in front of it? Where did they go to then? And it's getting to a point where I can see from a business perspective how wonderful this is, to intimately know the people that you are selling to and to be able to manufacture better products, better marketing, and sell. But then the question is, from a consumer level, did I buy that product because I actually needed it and I saw value in it, or did I buy it because it was so well designed around something that I would possibly buy that I couldn't help myself to buy it? There's a fine line between legitimacy and psychologically manipulating people.
Well, and take another jump further to that, as these larger chains, and we've touched on it in past episodes, but let's use Target for an example. As they're tracking and gathering all this data on us and how we're going through their stores, keep in mind this is the same company that got hacked with 110 million records that got stolen. Do we really want them gathering more information on us? We're not going to be able to stop them, but I'm going to tell you, when I go into those big stores, I normally turn my phone off. I just don't need them to track me by my phone. Simple little things like that. If that bothers you, just turn your phone off.
Yeah.
Now they can't track you around. So just a thought.
If only they could remind us of the fifth item that we went there for. All right. Well, with that, what are some tips, guys? What should people do? I know that I myself, I run an ad block on my web browser. Any other things that you guys tip-wise can throw out there?
Well, you want to make sure that you change your cookie settings to make sure that they're customized, so that it's not just allowing everything onto your computer by default. Mm-hmm. That's one thing that you can do on your browser. I think, David, you had mentioned a piece of software that works amazingly well. Maybe you could mention that again.
Yeah, sure. Look, we went through at the office yesterday re-looking at this. There's a couple of really good browser add-ins, particularly for Chrome and Firefox. It doesn't seem like Internet Explorer and Safari have the same privacy ability, but we ended up using Adblock Plus, Ghostry, Ghostry, Privacy Badger, which is from the Electronic Frontier, and there was one other. Referrer Control, because when you visit one website and click on a link to another website, it actually points out where you came from to the receiving website. So even if they haven't got all these other tracking things in the background, they know, for example, that you went from Pornhub to Target. So yeah, you want to be able to control as much information as possible on that aspect.
Yeah, great. All right, guys. Well, that's all the time we have for today. And just remember, people, you don't have to be weirded out over these companies watching you. Just know that they are watching. And like Scott said, if you don't want them watching, a couple of things you could do is turn off your phone as you're walking around stores. The other thing you can do is clear your cookies, clear your history on a daily or weekly basis on your web browser. So that's all the time we have for today. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time on InSecurity TV.